welcome to JG's Fight Talk, and with me now, I am privileged to say, I've got Don Charles. How you doing, Don?
I'm good, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you keeping
Good.
in this very unusual time?
Well, like everybody else, managing. You got to do, all you can do is manage the situation as best as you can.
Yeah.
I always say, provided you're well and your loved ones are well, really and truly, this has taught us, everyone, a big lesson. You know, you don't realize how vulnerable you are, or we are, generally, to everything, you know?
Yeah.
You just appreciate the very simple things in life, you know, things that we normally take for granted, you know? So obviously from anything that happens, good or bad, you learn from them. Well, certainly everybody, I think, would have learned a big lesson from this, to perhaps communicate, stay in touch with people, you know, to actually go and visit somebody, obviously, because we've been restricted to our movements, you know, so to actually thought of going to visit a friend in their house is kind of, it'll be so exciting when this is all over, do you know what I mean? So you start to appreciate things that we normally take for granted or we don't do.
Yeah.
So it has reshaped the world, you know? I mean, this is a world crisis, not just isolated to one area. It's a world crisis, you know? So it's certainly taught me a lot of things, you know, even at my age, you know, you look at things a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever been hit so hard with something that's literally changed everything that you can do, even, you know, the way we go to the shops, you know.
Absolutely.
If we used to say, oh, we'd just nip and see a friend, or, you know, people that had popped to the pub, it's just such a strange time, but you know.
has reshaped the world, you know, and hopefully we can learn from it, and hopefully, like I said, the human race can maybe be a bit nicer to each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the hope, isn't it? That's the hope.
Yeah.
It's obviously been nice the last couple of weeks that boxing has come back, which has given us a bit more of normality, isn't it? Hitting the screens again.
Most definitely that we've been able to, I mean, it's only a small percentage of boxers are active in this during these times. Our hope is that obviously the Prime Minister made his announcement yesterday. It sounds like unlock a few things on the April, and hopefully the fighters who are not as privileged as some fighters, I mean, the fighters who are fighting at the moment are the more established fighters. Generally, I would say 97% of the boxing fraternity are not, the professional boxers are not fighting. What you're seeing, probably, if you equate it in percentages, you're probably looking at 3% of the whole entirety of boxing industry worldwide. Only 3% are operating, and that over 97%, we need to bring them into play, and hopefully soon that can happen.
Yeah, and we're, you know, there's a lot of big names in there, isn't there, that haven't boxed over the past, you know, year or even 18 months. It's starting to drag out, isn't it? Which is dangerous for a fighter, isn't it? Being inactive, you know.
It's a young man's sport, and you know, God knows how long to. I mean, would this be totally eradicated, this pandemic? Who knows? I think all the government and all the world government can do is try and understand it. I think we'll start to have a better understanding about it, and then manage it, put things in place, like the vaccine, for instance, that been administered at the moment. So once most of the population have received the vaccination, I should imagine then things can be opened up a little bit more. And like I said, we've learned together to manage it, because at first it was a shock to, obviously, to the world.
Yeah.
What thing, and there was no cure for it. So now they've got this vaccine like I said, we started to learn about the actual this disease, and then we couldn't start to deal with it. You got to find the speed that it was generated as well, this vaccine, you know, because they didn't anticipate initially when we had the first lockdown they would come up with this vaccine in this speed that they've done it in. So we've got to be thankful, I suppose.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's been one of those situations where you almost think it's kind of damned if he does and damned if he don't. You know, there's going to be people that say it's not quick enough, and some people say that it's too slow. You know,
well,
but we've got to go with it, haven't we? And
I think that remarkably, I personally didn't anticipate that it would be gotten this quick, and I was a bit apprehensive when they said they've got one. It's like how ready is it? You know what I mean? You don't know. We still don't really know. So I mean, look, it's been administered, so we assume and I believe that it's as safe as, I think they've probably made it as safe as they can.
Yeah. No, it's as I say, things are definitely looking up, but you know, we'll start by looking back. You know, you were obviously born in Nigeria, Don.
That's correct.
And came over at the age of 14. Was it 14?
Yeah, I mean, I always make it clear, although I am a Nigerian, in terms of I am known as a Nigerian, but my original country is a forgotten country. It's called Biafra. Okay. Biafra. It's in the eastern region of Nigeria. Once upon a time, we had our independence. We had our own currency. We have our own language. But there was a conflict, a 3-year conflict back in the 60s. Nigeria beat, it was a war, it was a civilian war. Nigeria beat Biafra, the country, and then engulfed it, and we were integrated to becoming one country. That's why my people, the Igbo tribe that we're called, the language is Igbo. There are 3 main languages in Nigeria that make up Nigeria. That's Igbo, is from the eastern region, and Lagos, the Yoruba tribe, they from the Midlands, let's say, and then the Hausas are from the northern region of Nigeria. So because Nigeria won the war, we all got integrated into one Nigeria, but we were an independent country, Biafra, but it's not well documented. It's not really well publicized about that little country. Once upon a time there was. So I am Nigerian, but I'm actually a Biafran, if that makes sense. But, you know, it's something that I'm obviously very passionate about. I don't want to start another war, but I don't like the fact that the country has been forgotten. It's just been literally erased. The people are still there. The people of that country are still there, but it's almost like the forgotten country. But nevertheless, it is what it is. Yeah.
So you came from there at the age of 14. So you came over here at the age of 14. Was that your dad got a job over here? Is that right?
Yes, my dad was, because he's no longer with us. My dad was a banker. He studied in England in the 60s. He won a scholarship to come to England to study, which he did, and then he went into banking, and consequently he was headhunted by the African Bank, and they shortly after the war, the 3-year conflict. The war started in 1966 and it ended in 1969. So shortly after the war, my father got posted to England, to the city of London, Cheapside, the area was called, and he was one of the main members, as in top, in charge of that particular bank, and so consequently he was allowed to bring his family to England, and so we ended up here. Back in, my father came in 72. I joined him in 74. That's basically, and I was 14 years old coming up to 15 when I came. October 1974, I came here.
So how did you find it? Because it was obviously very different. You've gone from being in Nigeria and everything that's going on to then landing in pretty much in the East End of London. It must have been a real, shock as well, a real difference.
Most definitely, but obviously in the history of let's say Africa, for instance, Nigeria was colonized by the English, and some parts of Africa was colonized by the French, as you know. So that's why you've got a lot of French-speaking Black countries, purely because back then the West came up and carved up Africa and influenced and implemented and introduced their ways, their languages. So what you have, like I said earlier on, you have three main tribes in Nigeria with three separate languages. They're not even similar, they're totally separate languages. So obviously in history, when the English came and carved up Africa, Nigeria was under the British rule. Okay, Nigeria only gained its independence in 1960. Right, so from the England, being ruled by England, so the empire, the English Empire, British Empire. So basically, because there are three separate languages, so we all communicated with English, being as the English colonized us. So the language we communicate with amongst each other was English, because we couldn't speak each other's language. There are three main. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's basically what happened there. So English is actually our first language, and then our own language became secondary.
Yes. So when you came over, you were already, speaking English, and you just
most definitely. And the level of schooling over there was very, very good, very high, because again, the English introduced, the old school way of schooling, very, very strict, very, the education over there was very, very good. Again, it was introduced by the English. And when I got here, I was actually very advanced for my year. I was very advanced because, like I said, the level of education is there. Over there, the system is that every year you have to do an examination. You can't go on to the next year upper level unless you passed the exam for that particular year. So what you'll find, people failed and they remained in the same year, and then the juniors will catch you up. So it was an embarrassment for anyone. Yeah, that is the system. So that's why you really have to study. You have to pass examination to go to the next year. Here in England, automatically you get moved on.
Yeah. You just kind of follow the years, don't you?
Yeah. So over there, the system is, and it still is as like that now. And it was the English that introduced us. I don't know why they stopped it here. If they did it here and kept that system here, the level of education would be definitely better than what it is. Because back home, you took it really seriously. You have to, also, your parents, it will cost your parents money if you don't pass to get moved on to the next year. So you really have to study to be able to pass your exam on.
So the more years you stayed at one particular place, you're effectively costing your parents another year.
And you failed.
Yeah.
And you got juniors. You got in some situations, you got classes where there are 13-year-olds studying with 18-year-olds. So if you're an 18-year-old and you still haven't moved on, that's an embarrassment, isn't it? So people worked harder so they didn't fail their examination. They were pretty tough, the exams, back then. There were no.
What did your parents? What were the ambition of your parents? So you obviously came over here. What did they want you to go on to do? Well,
this is widespread. Every African wants their child, whether you're a boy or a girl, you got to be a doctor or a lawyer. Nothing less will do.
Right.
Yeah, nothing will do. Obviously, over the years, that has changed. The trend has changed. Like I said, the way I was raised, you're either going to be a lawyer or a doctor. If anything less than that, you have failed. You have let your parents down. You have failed. And that was my upbringing. I studied, but I never became what they wanted me to become. I had the head for it, but I wasn't cut out for it. I didn't see it through.
Yeah. So how did they feel when you became a boxing coach?
Well, they're not aware of it. That's why. So this is, look, it's quite a long story. Like everyone I've given an interview to, because it's such a long story, it cannot be told in like 30 minutes or 45. So I have to give you the outlines of it. So otherwise we'll be here till tomorrow. So my parents, like I said, I joined my parents here in 1974. My father got posted back to Nigeria to run the head office in Lagos. In 1977, they packed to go back to Nigeria. I stayed here to carry on with my education. That was the agreement with myself and my father. He actually didn't want me to stay here. He wanted to come back with them. And I sort of said, Dad, come on. I really want to study here. I like it here and I want to study here. So it took quite a lot of convincing to convince him, because I was only young, you know. I was coming into my 17th birthday when they left. And that was quite young to be left behind. I chose to be left behind. And obviously they put me in, in fact, it was one of my school teachers and his wife, they took custody of me to look after me. Because I was a bright student and I was an obedient student. So they agreed to take English couple. They agreed to look after, care for me. And my father used to send money for me for my living and stuff, with it on the conditions that once I finished my, I was gonna study till I was 20, 21, then I was gonna go back to Nigeria. That was the agreement. Yeah, sort of a 4-year thing. And I knew, although we had that agreement, I knew in the hearts of my heart that I didn't want to really go back, that I wanted to be here. You know, after coming back from that war, it was a horrible period, which I don't really very often talk about, because there's a lot of bad things that happened there. So coming to England, all I knew about England when I was in Africa as a kid, we look at the postcards that people like, you look at Buckingham Palace, all the Queen's Army, the royal family. It's really, because Nigeria being an ex-English colony, if you know what I mean. So there's quite a heavy influence in Nigeria of the British, you know what I mean? So all the things that I used to see on postcards only, there were no television. So basically anything we saw was either on the newspaper or postcards. So coming to England, then witnessing all this real life, it was like, and when my father, every Sunday it was almost, it was compulsory. We will go to church first. After church, we'll go home and eat. After that, we'll all get dressed up and go. He would drive the whole family up towards Hyde Park. We just basically went sightseeing, and then to see all the Buckingham Palace, and then you see these soldiers, the Queen's Army, and obviously I didn't know that you couldn't touch them. You're not allowed to touch them. It didn't look real, yeah. So because they didn't move, did they? They stood still, you know. Yeah. They don't move, do they? And I used to say to my dad, "Are they real? Can I touch them?" And he said, "No, don't touch them." And my little brothers and sisters were obviously the same. I was the oldest in my family as a kid, in the kids. The children, I was the eldest child, and got 4 other brothers and sisters, but I'm the eldest. So that was basically our routine. Every Sunday we'd go up and see a part of England, you know, all in London. We never ventured out of London. So that was my childhood, really. So after my parents left, I carried on studying and doing all kind of jobs to survive, you know. And as time went on, I'm fast forwarding, by the way.
Yeah, it's fine. Honestly, it's fine.
Otherwise, you know, like I said, we'll be here forever. And
it'd be like an extended,
yeah,
an extended film.
Yeah, boxing was an accidental thing that happened, in the sense I was a boxing fan first and foremost, because when I came back in 1974, it coincided with the Rumble in the Jungle between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. And my arrival coincided with that fight taking place. And that fight, when I look back now, really it affected me as a kid and influenced my life, because I saw this great man, Muhammad Ali, and I just wanted to become him. Yeah. And, you know, my dad was a massive fan of Muhammad Ali anyway. And I automatically, I became a fan of his. And after watching the fight live here in England on television, I just was infatuated with the man. And as time went on, when my parents went back, that's when, because I've always been quite athletic. I played rugby for my county. I grew up in East London, Forest Gate. So I played for my school. In athletics, I was a proper, you know, really into my athletics, but as an African, it was frowned upon if you wanted to be a sports person, because, like I said earlier on, unless you're a doctor or a lawyer, to your parents' eyes, you have failed yourself and you have failed them. So the thought of saying to my parents, I'm going to be definitely not a boxer, because at the time I was playing rugby, football, athletics, and there's been incidents where I've come back from. I remember one particular incident that sticks in my mind. I was 15 and a half. I got chosen to play for my county, Newham, the county of Newham, and I went for the trials, and I came back, rugby trials. I came back. It must have been about 6 p.m. The school finishes at 3:30. I came back at 6 p.m., which is unheard of, because as soon as school finished, I was under instructions to get straight back home. Yeah, which I did. I was a very obedient child. Every African child is an obedient child. Yeah. So strict upbringing. I remember one particular incident. I came back from the trials and I was covered in mud. And my dad was saying to me, "Where have you been?" And I said, "Dad, I've been playing rugby," and he didn't understand what rugby was anyway, right?
Oh, okay.
He didn't know, and I got hit. In these modern times, they'll classify that as abuse, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of beating children, no, but it never did me any harm. When I look back, I didn't like it at the time, obviously, because it's like, at the time I was obviously very confusing. And I became frightened to even mention that I'm playing sports, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because if you got beat,
it wasn't
accepted. So basically, I started to hide about or not speak about sports at home, because although I excelled in football, athletics, and the rugby, like I said, but it was frowned upon. Yeah, I'm not on my own. If you speak to most African kids from my generation, they'll tell you exactly. They probably had exactly identical experience. It's not something that it was just me. No, it's widespread. So fast forward, it was only after my parents went back to Nigeria. At the age of 19. I was living on my own by now. I left the people who were caring for me, because if I'd expired the time that I was allowed to study, so I had to go out on my own. Only then did I start looking into, I wanted to find a local boxing club. So I was actually living in Ladbroke Grove at the time. I moved area, I changed areas, and somebody told me there was a club in Harrow Road, which is All Stars, as we know. It's still there today. All Stars Boxing Club in Harrow Road. And I ventured in there, very nervous I was, and paid my tariff. I think it was only like £1, I think you had to pay. And joined in the group. I started shadow boxing, and the coaches there thought I wasn't like a boxer, because I already had good movement, good footwork. I was a dancer back then. I used to go to Pineapple Studios in Covent Garden. Yeah. With all my mates, because dancing was very big back then in the late 70s, early 80s.
What sort of stuff did you dance to, Don?
No, we did contemporary contemporary jazz, modern jazz, yeah, fused with contemporary dance. It's very expressive. So I could dance before I boxed. So I used to copy Muhammad Ali's movement, his footwork. Yeah. Me and my brothers and sisters, we used to play in the garden. We used to skip. I could skip before I went into a boxing gym. I already knew how to skip. So imagine this guy here. I'm moving around like Muhammad Ali. And when they gave me a rope, I could really skip really well. So they just assumed I was an accomplished young boxer.
They must have thought they'd hit the jackpot.
Well, yeah, he did ask me, do you box? I said, yeah, I didn't. And it's only after a few sessions, they stuck me in the ring with a guy who could box, and I got my ass kicked. And that's
on that one.
They realized, okay, this guy can't fight. I could fight, but I couldn't box. Yeah, I hadn't been taught how to box, and they still liked me because I was very athletic and I had good agility, and I had good ideas about boxing, but I had never been shown how the fundamentals, basically. So they took it upon themselves to start showing me the fundamentals, and that was that. And then shortly after that, I changed areas. I moved to South London. Again, upon arrival in South London, I found a local club, which was the Brixton ABC. And that's who I ended up representing. I boxed for the Brixton ABC as a super heavyweight. And the people who were at the club at the time when I joined, they were my juniors. Danny Williams, as you know, who were Mike Tyson. Yeah, Spencer Fearon, the Knowledge. He also was my junior at that club, Brixton ABC. And so that's what I boxed for as an amateur. And again, when I boxed as an amateur, I never boxed because I wanted to go and become a professional boxer. I just did it because I loved it. Yeah. And once entered my head, you're going to go and do it as a career. I did it because I love boxing. And it's only, I'm going to fast forward again. When I had my first amateur fight when I was 25, I believe. Yeah, I was 25 years old when I had my first amateur fight, which is quite old to actually start competing. And I only boxed for like 3 years. Okay. Again, like I said, when I entered it, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this for a living. So I did it, had my fun. I got to 28. A lot of things happened in my life at the time, life-changing situations, career-wise. I had to make this. Remember, I'm frightened. What am I going to tell my parents? Because I didn't become a doctor or a lawyer. Yeah, I did my college. I got my certificates, my examinations. I passed, but I never took it any further. I went to college, but I didn't go to uni. Yeah. So how the hell am I going to tell my parents? Basically, I failed. If I didn't become what they wanted to go, I have failed in their eyes. So I know this is again where I sort of I didn't contact my parents for a good 10 years. 10 years of my life I missed of their lives. I regret that because they're no longer with us, and I missed 10 years of their life, and they missed 10 years of my life. Yeah. This is all because in embarrassment of not having achieved what they wanted me to achieve. Hence why that time just flew. Yeah. So I did contact my parents after 10 years of not seeing them or speaking to them. I did contact them eventually because therefore I was dead. Therefore I was gone. They did look for me. They didn't find me. So what happened in that period? I boxed. Stopped boxing. I panicked. I had to do something to become someone or be successful in something. So being a typical African man, I'm well read, I'm well educated, and we're always natural. We're natural businessmen. We're natural traders. I worked for a company in the fashion industry, manufacturing company. I learned the trade, and I went and opened my job when I was with that company. My job was to, I had 30 30 factories that I used to look after, like, because they were manufacturers. So I learned the trade, and then I went out on my own. I had 2 high street shops, one in Putney, one in Wimbledon, selling clothing, high fashion. I had 4 market stalls, people working for me. This is at the age of 28. I was doing really well. For a massive college. I was doing really well. And that was during the boom period. Margaret Thatcher was the prime minister at the time. So that was that era where if you wanted to work and the government encouraged some people like me, entrepreneurs who wanted to if you wanted to work and make something of yourself, it was a perfect period. Joe, can you hear me? Hello.
Hello, you're still there, Dom, but your video's gone.
Yeah, we'll be back in a second. Somebody's calling, and I won't take it. I'm gonna wait till they get back. Right, you're back.
That's all right.
Right. So basically, fast forward, I was doing really well with my business.
Yeah.
And again, then that's the period when I contacted my parents. My mum, I sent a ticket for my mum to come to England, and she came out. She was in tears, man. Imagine you haven't seen your child, your firstborn, for all that time. She was like in tears, and she was in joy because she thought I was dead. She was full of joy, and again, blood is obviously thick, and embraced, and so she was so happy to see me, and I was obviously happy. I missed my mum I was a 16-year-old child when she left. I was 26 when she joined me, 28, you know, and so that was that. I reacquainted with my parents, and things have changed as well. The African attitude, in the sense that things have moved on, where you can become whatever you want to become, basically.
Yeah.
And that's when I then told my father, I said, guess what, Dad? I boxed for fun. I had fights, and I did really well as an amateur. And I said, really? It was actually very interested in me when I was telling him. I was showing him pictures. There were no videos. I was sending him pictures of me boxing. He was really proud of it, and he was really intrigued that I actually gone and done it, you know? So anyway, after that, I stopped fighting. In 1989 was my last fight. I fought against a guy called Harry Senior, who went on to become, I think Harry became the Commonwealth champion. He boxed for the Lynn Athletic, down Camberwell. It's quite a reputable club, the Lynn Athletic. Quite a lot of people came out of that club. Harry Senior was one of them. Henry Akiwande, one of the tallest boxers that ever boxed for that club. So when I retired from amateur fighting, I again missed boxing so much. I left South London and moved to North London, to Finchley. Again, the first thing I do whenever I go into an area is look for the nearest boxing club. So I was like, how old was I now? I was 29 when I moved to Finchley. I went and found a club. It was in Kentish Town. It's called St. Pancras Amateur Club. It's still there now. It later went on to become the Kronk. But it's gone back to being what it was, St. Pancras Boys in Amateur Club. So that's where I found that club, and I started training there. There's a trainer called Joe Gregory. He's the trainer of a former British, I don't think John won the British title. He fought for it 3 times, but he lost 3 times. He's a really good fighter, John McDermott.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so this chap, Joe Gregory, is John McDermott's trainer. So I asked him, how do you become a coach? Because I love boxing so much. I want to try my hand. I can't fight anymore. Too old. I was 29. I thought, I said I wanted to become a coach. How do you become a coach? He said, well, you just become one. I said, how do you mean? Is there a school to go to, like a college to learn how to be how did you become a coach? He said, I didn't. I'm self-taught. I said, really? I said, can I be your assistant? He said, fine. So basically, it took me under his wings, and I just started to do pads in the same way my coach, my amateur coach, Floyd Alexander at the Brixton ABC, the same combinations, the same way he used to train me, I started to use his system, his methods. And I was also running a security company at the time. I had quite a lot of big fellas working for me. So I used to use them. They used to come to the gym and I would pad them up. And that's how I learned to do my pads. And shortly after that, I thought, I want to open like a studio, like to train. My son was born when I was 30 years old. My son was born George. I said, right, I need to open a studio where I can train, keep myself fit, carry on training my doormen to keep them fit, to do the job that I'm employing them to do. And also maybe run a few commercial classes, you know. So that was my, again, it's a business, typical African, always looking for an angle for a business. So I got a premises, and I had the premises for like a couple of weeks. I'd gotten the keys for it, and the way life goes, destiny, I happened to be giving a friend of mine a lift to Ladbroke Grove, and I needed some petrol for my car. And I pulled into a petrol station in a place called Temple Fortune. It's between Golders Green and Finchley. I pulled in to put petrol into my car, and there was a chap putting petrol, a young lad putting petrol in his car. My friend started to talk to him, my colleague, because he was wearing a Finchley Amateur Boxing Club t-shirt. My friend said to him, "Are you a boxer?" He said, "Yeah." My friend said to me, if you want to get better, you need to see that man over there. Go and talk to him. And he didn't. The chap he was speaking, the young lad he was speaking, he didn't. He just looked at me and I looked at him. We just looked away. When I went to pay for my petrol inside the station, I saw the young man. I said, "So you're a boxer?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you heard what my friend said. If you want to get better, you need to come and check me." That man is Derek Chisora.
Oh, wow.
That's how I met Derek, in a petrol station. And obviously that changed my life, because it's only now, when I look back, had I not met him, that crazy boy, had I not met him, there would be no Don Charles, period. Because the reason I say that, now, sometimes, ignorance, not because I'm not an ignorant person, I'm just generalizing. Being ignorant to something means you're oblivious, you don't know, you're not aware.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it's a good thing, all right? Because I didn't know the industry. I'm just a fan of boxing, because when I look back now, it scares me of how hard it is, had I gone through the system to become a coach, to be going through the amateur system, to get promotion, to then perhaps end up with a champion. Highly impossible is the word. It's impossible. When I look back now, when I look at it, I always choke up. Because I'm now petrified. I'm scared. Oh my God. So I almost never did this thing then. I just fell into it. Literally fell into it. Right? That's why I'm a strong believer in destiny. Yeah. So I met a young man in a petrol station. Yeah. It happened to be a boxer. He'd only had 6 amateur fights when I met him. I started training him in my unbuilt gym. The gym wasn't built. I'd gotten the space, but I hadn't done it up. I hadn't put no bag, nothing. Yeah. And he started taking private sessions with me behind the back of his club. His club weren't aware of it. Yeah. And he started to introduce me to his club, that club being Finchley Amateur Club, Boxing Club. Yeah. So we went through, Derek won the novice ABAs that year. And the following year, he won the senior ABAs. But they didn't know he was working with me. Right. So then eventually he did reveal me to his club. He used to tell them that I was his uncle. We're both black, so I can get away with it. When I started going to the club to watch him spar, every time he sparred at the Finchley Amateur Club, he would say to me, come, I've told them my uncle is coming. So I'll go to the club posing as his uncle, yeah? Just to monitor how he's sparring and stuff. Anyway, he won the ABAs. He boxed for England and he got the Four Nations. He won silver. He won gold, really, but they robbed him and gave him silver. So he had the hump. He said, right. And they didn't choose him to go to the Commonwealth Games. They should have. They chose David Price instead. And so he said, I'm going to turn pro. I said, fine. So he turned pro. The person who was training him as an amateur was Spencer Oliver's uncle, John Oliver.
Yeah.
Who also trained Anthony Joshua, right? Right. So basically, he was Derek Chisora's first coach as a professional. He did 2 fights with Derek as a pro. I was his assistant. I became John's assistant when Derek turned pro. Yeah. After 2 fights, John resigned because he had some personal things to deal with in his personal life.
Yeah.
So, over the reins to me. Yeah. He said to me, here you go. I've watched you, young man. You are good enough. And he'd put a lot of work into Derek, John Oliver had. He really had. And he loved Derek. Yeah. And he trusted me, a novice coach who hadn't trained anybody. He said to me, I've watched you. You are good. I'm going to hand over the reins to you. Anything you need to know about the business, about the industry, I'm here for you. It's only a phone call. And he gave me a little black book that contained literally every trainer that had a heavyweight. John Oliver gave me the numbers. And he also called some of them to say, this is who's training Derek. Anything he needs, help him. And one of the most help I got as I was developing as a coach when I first started training Derek as a professional. And I pray to God and I pray for the praise for him, Mr. Jim Evans, yeah, who's currently very, very, very ill. Very, very ill, yeah. He mentored me, Jim. Michael Sprott was the British champion at the time.
Yeah.
I used to frequently drive up to Reading with Derek to spar Michael Sprott. So Derek learned a lot. I learned a lot as a coach from Mr. Evans, who, like I said, I pray for him. He's really badly ill as we speak. So he helped me an awful lot through my development as learning the trade. They're not helping you how to hold pads or anything. You just being around these guys who are senior, established, experienced. You just pick up just little things that they do, little things that they say to their fighters. You just soak it up, and I was really willing to learn. So that's how I learned. And as a rookie, Derek Chisora, within 12 fights, became a British champion. Within 15 fights, he became British and Commonwealth champion. Yeah. And for me, when I look back now, again, that's a massive achievement for somebody like myself who, like I said, I stumbled onto this thing. Yeah. I'd never done it before, right? And then along the way, I've trained 5 British champions, 2 Commonwealth champions, 1 European champion, 2 prize fighter winners. My resume reads very, very well, but I haven't trained a world champion to date, and that's my quest.
Yeah.
If I've done all that with no experience, I'm really excited at what I'm going to do with the experience that I've gotten in the last 16 years. Yeah. So kind of like, again, I've fast forwarded because otherwise we will be here till tomorrow and the next day. So there's a lot happened along the way. Our first loss, Derek's first loss was inflicted upon us by Mr. Fury, Tyson Fury.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
That man has a habit of waiting for us to go and get titles, and then he'll take it off us. He inflicted Derek's first defeat, but he took our British and Commonwealth title away from us. Yeah. Then we went away, regrouped, won the European title. Tyson Fury's first European title, he took it off Derek Chisora. He's our nemesis, yeah? So, you know, he just had our numbers. But in fact, he's got everybody's numbers.
Yeah. He's well. You think how he was then, and how he looks now.
So look what he's gone on to do. This is a man who used to punch himself in the face using a punch bag.
Yeah.
That's Fury, right? He's not the fighter on the planet. So it just shows. So there's no shame in that. So Chisora, like I said, I didn't want to believe it that Tyson could beat us in the first fight. I said, there's no way this guy can beat us. Yeah, we are the champions, and he beat us. It was actually a hard fought fight, but he won unanimously. He won. Second fight, I was that convinced, and so was Derek, that we're gonna beat him and knock him out. Guess what? It was like it was a shutout. Yeah, it was a shutout. And trust me, we tried everything to come up with a game plan. And what Tyson's got, what he's very good at, is being able to rip up your game plan and just literally rip it up. That's why it's so hard to prepare for him. You know,
he's done it with so many, isn't he? That's the thing. You know, when we look at the Wilder fights, especially the second one, he was like, "I'm going to come at you." And everyone laughed at him. Everyone said, "Well, he can't do that because he boxes. He doesn't do that." And
I was one of the people. I thought, there's no way this guy can go on his front foot on a renowned puncher like Wilder. He wouldn't. I said, if he does, the fight will be over quick. Guess what? How wrong could I and everybody be?
I was one of them too, Don. Honestly, it was incredible to watch, wasn't it? Incredible. But you know, going back to Dell, one of the fights for me was the first Dillian White fight. I absolutely loved that. And in my opinion, Chisora won it. It was such that he had these amazing bursts of power, and it was like 1 minute from the end of each round. You just saw it's like Chisora went bang, and he went into that mode, and he was just fantastic to watch. And that was a different Chisora, wasn't it?
Right. So let me. I'm glad you brought that up. Let me go back a little bit. Right. Prior to that fight, me and Derek had parted after the Fury loss. Yeah. Okay. Derek's had these new advisors who weren't there in the beginning of what me and Derek had been through. Or what happened? Is widespread in boxing. When a fighter is successful, you get all these newfound advisors come from nowhere because they smell money. Yeah. And the first thing they always do, unfortunately, is whisper in the fighters' ears, leave your coach, we'll get you a better coach. Yeah. They dismiss and discredit all the work that the previous coach has done. So after the first Fury loss, I went to the Philippines. I traveled to the Philippines with a legend called Roger Gracie, who's the jiu-jitsu expert. And he fought for a world title. I trained him from the boxing side of things. And he won a world title in the Philippines. So actually, I have won a world title, but not in boxing. I trained a great, Google his name, he's a very, very popular, famous man, legend, in fact. Roger Gracie is from the Gracie's, famous Brazilian Gracie's family. So I trained him to win his world title in the MMA. I did the boxing side of things for him. And in fact, he stopped the guy via boxing technique rather than taking him down. Anyway, so I'd got back from the Philippines with Roger after we won the fight, after we'd lost to Fury, should I say. There was an article in The Sun saying Derek Chisora has sacked his coach, long-term coach, Don Charles, his mentor, his coach. Again, I was shocked to read that. And then I called Derek. I said, Derek, have you read the papers today? He said, no, why? I said, if you're going to sack me, at least have the decency and the courtesy to tell me first before I read in the papers. He said, I never put nothing in the papers. I said, well, the Sun are not going to write such a thing if they didn't have from a good source to, because I could sue them for that. He said, I definitely never spoke to the son. I said, well, have you sacked me then? He said, no. Anyway, so I went to his house to see him, and he wouldn't look me in the face. He said, I'm going to move on. I'm going to leave. I'm going to win a few fights, and I'm going to come back to you. I said, really? I said, it doesn't work like that. I said, remember everything we've been through together. Yeah, I'm so proud of what we've done together, the promise we made to each other, all the dark days when things were hard for us, we fought through it. When the industry didn't want us, we made each other a promise that we're going to beat the industry. And we did for the period from winning the British title. That's the only time the industry embraced us. I know how hard it was for us to get through. It was hard, very, very hard. Yeah. Till we proved ourselves, then they embraced us. Yeah. Then when it went bad, then you're gonna forget all those times. Yeah. Anyway, every trainer will tell you probably the same story. I'm not the first, I'm not gonna be the last trainer that experiences these things with fighters. So he left after the first few we lost because the new advisors knew better. He went away. It was very unsuccessful after he went away. He called me. I promised myself I wasn't gonna train him again in the manner that he left. I promised myself that I wasn't gonna touch him again. Anyway, cut long story short, he came back after 2 years, 18 months to 24 months of absence. And that Dillian Whyte, the reason I'm giving you this backstory is because prior to that Dillian Whyte fight you just said, that was his first fight back with myself, his original coach, who knows him physically, knows him mentally, how he ticks, right? So I was able to, for the period we had, which is a 10-week camp, I was able to retrace his roots of what made him successful when once upon a time we were successful. Yeah? Yeah. And then we regrouped. He gave that brilliant effort in that first Dillian Whyte fight. Obviously, in 10 weeks, I can't undo all the badness he has done in 2 years of being absent from me. All the discipline, when I say badness, the disciplines he'd lost. Yeah. I get it all together in 10, 11 weeks, which is what you saw, the evidence of 11 weeks work, of bringing back some of the disciplines in his approach, in his training, and all the things, the style that I formulated for him. I am the only one, and still the only one, who knows how that style, what goes with it. I'm also the only one, the only man.
You still there, Don? You still there, Don?
I'm still here.
Yeah, that's all right, mate.
Yeah. Derek Chisora is a very complex character. He's an extraordinary individual. So in some cases, a genius. But like I said, I know how to tap into his frequency as a person.
Yeah.
So, again, fast forward, we lose. We'll have a rematch with Dillian Whyte. We're doing very well. The referee played a big part in interfering with that fight, which Derek, taking points off Derek, in some cases unnecessarily taking points from him. Yeah. Dillian Whyte would initiate a foul. Derek will retaliate. He shouldn't have retaliated, but Derek, the referee would take it upon himself to warn Dillian Whyte, but take a point off Derek. So he took 2 points off of Derek, started to panic and started to lose his shape. And also was fatigued, and we got knocked out. Right, after that, prior to that second fight, I missed a part. Mr. Hay, Derek decided he wanted David Hay to get involved in management. Me being me, I rejected it initially. Then I went away, thought about it, saw the angle that Derek was coming from. I said, okay, I embraced it. Let's go for it. If this might be the missing link why we've never won a world title, because David Hay has won a world title in 2 different weight categories, and I respected him as a fighter because I think he's a brilliant athlete, brilliant fighter. Yeah. And if his inclusion will aid us to cross that line that we're finding difficult to cross, then so be it. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Because we had history with this man. So for the sake of my fighter, because I'm not a selfish guy, when Derek requested to get him involved as a manager, I rejected it initially. Then I saw the angle, like I said, I embraced it, encouraged it, and we went for it. And then, to my detriment, after the fight, we lost. We're doing well. We were winning the fight. We were ahead on the cards, even with the 2-point deduction. We got knocked out. Obviously, that was conclusive. And again, who's the scapegoat? Me. So my disappointment is that Derek would listen to a guy to say, get rid of your coach. Yeah. So he will always throw me under the bus, which I don't deserve. Yeah. Okay. And again, after getting rid of me by listening to new advisors, he still hasn't got a coach.
So it doesn't really make sense, does it?
No, right? So if you're going to replace me, at least have a suitable equivalent or more established or more experienced coaching, or not even more experienced, a coach who's achieved more than I have, to coach you. A coach who's going to understand your style and perfect it, and you might never get the perfection we're looking for, but come near to it.
Yeah, as you say, it's about getting to that next level, isn't it? And if someone had come in and they could take him to that next level, then you know, as you were saying, he's not just a fighter. He's more than that to you. To see him to go to the next level.
Remember, Joel, remember what I said in the beginning. I'm quite a romantic. I'm quite a romantic in the sense that me and this boy, he's still a boy to me. He's a man, but I'm not being derogatory when I say a boy. He's my son. He's my first boxing. I owe him my boxing life. I owe him my boxing career, because as a coach, he put me on the map, man.
Yeah.
And he made me money. Yeah. Okay. My existence as a coach still presently is because of that man. Right. So when I put all my disappointment behind, like him always throwing me under the bus, I only give an opportunity, not because he wants to, because he's easily influenced by outsiders who don't really have his best interest at heart, in my opinion. Right. So like I said, time is a healer. I go away and I think about things. I said, don't be so ungrateful to myself. I'm talking to myself, because don't be contradictory. Don't be a hypocrite. I'm angry. I'm disappointed, but I love the man, because without him, like I said, there will be no Don Charles. I owe that to him. I'm indebted to him in that way, indefinitely, because I'm not a hypocrite. Like I said, I'm not a guy who denies the truth. I'm not a guy who dismisses the truth. Yeah, I acknowledge and accept. Privately, I've told him this privately, and I'm also speaking with passion publicly, because it's the truth. The truth is that this young man, I owe him my career, because by chance meeting, it gave birth to me as a coach.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it, to think at a petrol station,
yeah,
stumbled in. Well, I don't think it's even a stumble, to be honest. I think, you know, God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? And you know, you'd opened a gym, you were looking for someone to come into that gym, and there was Derek Chisora. It's just unbelievable.
It's almost like, I suppose lottery is the word. It's almost like winning the lottery. Not many people win the lottery. Yeah. Okay. So it's not. Yeah, it was, because this is my passion. Remember, it was passion first. It was never about the money. It was about passion. My passion. Then to get paid to do your passion. I mean, you're not gonna get better than that.
No. That's So if you look back at your coaching career so far, Don, what's your crowning glory so far? If you look back over that career so far, what's a standout moment for you?
Wow, there's been a few. Obviously,
you've obviously had other boxers as well, like Frank Buglioni. You've had Tom Little. It goes on.
You see, before I answer the question you actually asked me, I'm gonna elaborate a bit more because I am the coach. Remember, I've been gifted Derek Chisora, not by any promoter, purely by chance meeting, purely by my destiny, purely by God, purely by the universe. Yeah, it didn't come via the way of a promoter. Yeah, and I don't blame them. Who are you? You're not gonna give your investment to somebody who's not known. But even after I became known, up to today, I sound like Deontay Wilder. Today,
don't start talking like Deontay Wilder, honestly.
Up today, yeah, 16 years today, right? No promoter has given me a fighter. How about that?
Yeah. Exactly.
No promoter, even after all my achievements, yeah, which I'm very, very proud of. 5 British titles in 5 different weight categories. No promoter up to today has given me, sent a fighter to me, right? To say, Don, you're a good trainer. I'm going to give you this talent that's won the ABAs, this talent that's come from the Olympics. Yeah. Am I good enough? Hell yeah, I'm good enough, right? Because if I can work and get these guys to win the titles that they're not supposed to have won, then imagine if you gave me a talent straight from the Olympics, or a talent straight from the ABA winner, yeah? What would I do, right? Frank Bilioni came to me after he had already fought for a world title. He was out in the wilderness when he phoned me and said, Don, can I have a meeting? I thought he wanted to have sparring with one of my guys. He said, I want to come and see you with view to train me because I've always liked the way you do things and da-da-da-da-da. I said, definitely. And he's another son of mine. Yeah. We only worked together for 2 years. And my goodness, what are 2 years? Again, you asked me 5 minutes ago, what's one of, I would actually go as far as saying the fight when he beat Jose Burton.
Yeah, great fight.
Against odds, that's probably it has to be ranked #1 of the feeling. I've appreciated every title that we've won. From European titles, like I said, we've won British title. I've done it 5 times. 4 times, my apologies, 4 times. We failed on the 5th occasion. Yeah. All right. I've done it with Derek Chisora, British titleist winner, Frank Bilioni, British title winner, a Nigerian boxer called Ajozo Lishugun. Is a light welterweight. Okay. He won the, and also Ashley Theo, not many people know this, Ashley Theophane won his British title with me. I trained him for it. He beat a guy called Lenny Dawes, who was trained by Robert McCracken and Tony Sims. Okay, so those are my 4 British titles. The 5th one I failed on. Ian Lewison fought Dylan White in Scotland for the British title. But that would have been my 5th British title win. Unfortunately, we fell short on that occasion. But nevertheless, I've still done for. You tell me how many coaches, not the obvious ones, yeah, like who get given all the crib and crumb, like your Gallagher's, your who else, that win 4 British titles in 4 different weight categories. Tell me, I don't know any of them. Yeah. Right? And British title, once upon a time, well, Sir Henry Cooper. When I say all he ever won, he became a household name by winning the British title. He didn't win anything else major apart from the British title, but yet he was a household name. I know things have changed. Yeah. So, like I said, I believe I'm halfway through my coaching career. Yeah. I'm working with a number of fighters at the moment. Okay. My son being one of them. Okay. That's another story for another day, Joel. Yeah. My son, I didn't know he was going to be a boxer, but he happens to be a heavyweight boxer, which is my specialist. My specialized.
Yeah. You've done that before.
Yeah. If this is my specialized subject, then I'm a heavyweight. My specialist subject, chosen subject, I'm going to be questioned on is the heavyweight division. So my son is a heavyweight. I have a cruiserweight. He's unbeaten, George Fox, his name is. He goes by his mother's name, Fox, his surname. I have a cruiserweight, Jordan Thompson, who's also unbeaten, 10-0. I have a young man from Devon, Harry. He's a heavyweight, Harry Armstrong. He's 1-0. Yeah, he's from Torquay in Devon. He's a prospect. In the future, he's going to do things. So basically, I was recently in the last 18 months working with Florian Marku, the Albanian.
Oh, right, yeah.
He fought on Saturday. Florian had
He's a character,
fight.
isn't he? He's a character.
Again, in my opinion, he's got world champion. He's a world champion material in the making. Yeah, he has attributes that, trust me, I know a star when I see one. Again, I was working with him, and the advisors have advised him away from me. Yeah, because that's why I wasn't in his corner for his last fight. I was his coach up to the one where he won and he got a draw. He won the fight. We got awarded a draw, which is outrageous.
Oh, it was shocking. It was shocking.
Again, is that a reason to then ditch your coach, right? Who, when he came into this country, I was very instrumental in guiding him to acquaint him and introduce him to the right personnel who would open the doors into the British market for him. I did all that. But yet again, the new advisors would advise him away from me to say, leave him, right? Totally outrageous and not fair. And this industry, let me tell you something, Joe. I love it. I love the boxing, but I don't love the majority of the people in the industry are horrible people.
It's the politics, isn't it? It's the politics.
Well, I'm not a politician.
No.
I didn't study politics. I studied boxing and I still do, right? And you know what? I am blessed. I am blessed because God doesn't make mistakes. My friend, Tunde Ajayi, who trains Anthony Yard, yeah, he always says, God doesn't make mistakes. And presently, I know his roots. Do you know Tunde Ajayi?
No, I don't.
Have you heard of Anthony Yard?
Yeah.
Right. His trainer is called Tunde Ajayi. Yeah? Right. He's a very, very good coach. Anthony has lost 2 fights. One was a world title fight.
Yeah.
Against Kovalev.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And he lost a close fought fight against Lyndon Arthur. Right? So all the experts, all the new advisors are now advising Yard to leave his coach.
It seems to be a running theme, doesn't it? Because you think when Joshua lost his fight,
exactly.
Everyone was barking at him to say, look, move on.
Get rid of Kraken, who has had him at the time. How many fights had Joshua won prior to losing to Ruiz? 24?
Yeah, it was.
So
put it this way, he was unbeaten through all those fights.
Right. So the same coach who coached him to win 24 fights, suddenly he's no good. He's lost 1 fight. Get rid of him. Yeah. It's outrageous. People, and a lot of these advisors have never boxed in their life. A lot of them they don't understand boxing, but yet again, they feel fit to go and advise these fights. And unfortunately, in most cases, these fighters listen to them.
Yeah. You
know, so, but it is what it is. I'm not the first. I'm not going to be the last that this happens to. But I'm such a determined person. I was going to say determined young man for a minute, but I'm not young.
You're still young, Don. You're still young, mate.
I'm very determined.
Yeah.
I love sport. I'm good at it as a coach. I understand boxing. I didn't understand the boxing business. I now do. Yeah. I'm going to persevere. Yeah. With what I'm doing. I love my work. I'm going to persevere with what I do. Bringing these kids through.
Yeah.
And I mean it for the bad news I've got for the people who are all these advisors. Yeah. I'm in it for the long haul. I've got last man standing. That's my motto. I'm in it for the long haul. God willing, and gives me health, first and foremost, gives me strength. I'm in it for the long haul. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and I intend to complete the race.
Yeah, you go. Oh, that was my wife. But no,
one thing you find, Joel, when I'm quite a deep spiritualist person, hence why sometimes remember, I'm speaking with experience. So when I'm talking to you, I'm reciting my experiences. Yeah. So sometimes I may sound like I'm having a dig. I'm having a dig at these people because they're not very considerate about people. They're not very respectful about situations they come into. But yet again, they feel quick because they see money, nothing else. That's why they're driven by money, nothing else. I don't look at a fighter and say, look at that, that's a pound note. I look at fighters because I genuinely love boxing and I genuinely want to turn them into champions. And guess what? If I manage to do so, of course the money comes from me, but I don't do it for money first and foremost. That's the difference.
Honestly, Don, I absolutely love your passion. You're one person that I've had on here who's real, and you can see the love you've got for your fighters, and that
60
goes
years, man.
But that goes a long way. Do you know what I mean? That goes a hell of a long way. I've always been a fan of Del, and always will be, because he's the character of the sport. But you can see he loves it. And but you helped plant that.
Hell, I'm gonna even go further. Not just plant. I nurtured it. I watered it. It grew into a beautiful tree. But unfortunately, like I said, these new advisors and people who don't even know the character they're dealing with. Yeah. Okay. And Derek has never won any major fight without me. He has never won any major fight without me. Whenever he's gone absent from me, yeah, he doesn't win any major fights. His only chance of winning any major fights in the future before he retires, and he'll give me great. I don't even know how this story is supposed to end with Derek, with myself and him. Yeah. Okay. Remember, I said I owe him. It's my duty as an African man, my upbringing is to. I'm not a hypocrite. I embraced England. England has done everything for me and more. When I remember I came here as a 14-year-old boy, yeah, the opportunities that England has given me to become who I've become today, yeah, I owe England. But guess what? I'm still a black man, an African man. So when another African person, I don't discriminate, I train all colors, as you know. When I say real here, you got an African boy here who, when the industry didn't want to let me and Derek through the industry initially, we both made each other a promise. I said, Derek, we're two African boys that don't want us in. Guess what? We're going to knock politely. Yeah? We're going to knock politely. Metaphorically speaking, we're going to knock the door down if they don't let us in. That was our attitude. That's why we were successful in the beginning. Yeah? Then along the way, we make money. The fame comes. Then all these advisors come out the woodwork who weren't there in the beginning, when things were really hard for us, yeah, and then start advising, and you're gonna listen to them. That's my disappointment. But like I said, I don't know how this all ends. If me and him work here in the future, right? Because he's my son, always will be. My first son in boxing who gave me life, gave me boxing life, that is. I owe that to him. And nothing will give me more pleasure than to him to pick up a regular belt, because the major ones, the super belts, are being held at ransom by Anthony Joshua and Fury. And for the next 24 months, 36 months, I think those belts are going to stay between those two guys.
Yeah, 100%.
When they have their fight, they'll probably have a rematch, and there might be a trilogy. So if you put a time to it, you're probably going to allocate 36 months. Those belts will not leave those two partners, dance partners, for the next 36 months. So everybody else in the heavyweight division, they will be fighting for what will be called the regular titles. Yeah. Yeah. So God willing, Derek Chisora, with or without myself, would go and win one of those regular titles because he deserves to. Yeah, it was just unfortunate that he's had some hard fights. Yeah, we've always lost at Grand Slams. Even with me, we've lost big fights against Klitschko. We gave a good fight in Munich. We lost, but he gave a good account of himself because all the experts said that we're going to get knocked out within 2 rounds, including Mr. David Hay. That was his prediction, that when we went to Munich, we will not last more than 2 rounds because he failed miserably himself to fight a Klitschko. He failed miserably. But when we now fought the senior Klitschko, the stronger one, he said Chisora is a bum. Those were his words. Go on the internet. He's going to get knocked out in 2 rounds. We not only did we last the duration, we went there to win. We gave Vitali his toughest. He retired after that fight, Vitali. He retired after fighting Derek. Derek retired him. And we won 4 rounds. Nobody wins rounds against Vitali. We won 4 rounds in Germany. You might think, but you didn't win the fight. No, we didn't win the fight, but we didn't get knocked out like all the experts said. Yeah? And fought for the WBC title. Yeah? And that's, again, I'm very proud of that. That a novice, a rookie like me, took a guy to as far as to fight for the WBC title. We didn't win it, but we fought for it.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? If you're not going to win it, you give everything, and in that fight, everything was there, wasn't it? So,
it was, yeah.
Honestly, Don, I look at I look at yourself, and as I say, I think the drive you've got and the passion you've got for the sport after all these years, and that you're still saying, look, I'm halfway through. I think it's incredible, and I think you're a real credit to the sport, Don. Honestly, and the kids you've got down the gym, and what Spencer Oliver and Jake Wood have said about you as well. That you're a real ambassador for the sport, and
well,
hats off to you.
I have you're quite right. I have a lot of I have a lot of things I want to. The board, I've got very good relationship with the British Boxing Board of Control. I think they do a tremendous job for boxing. I have a lot of things in the future that once I accomplish what I want to accomplish as a trainer, I want to. There's a few ideas I want to implement and introduce to boxing in this country to help such people on the outside who want to get into the industry. But they don't know how to. I get loads of requests from people who ask me, how did I become a coach and stuff? And I mentor people as well who I've mentored quite a few coaches who are now playing big roles. Xavier Miller, who's currently coaching Dylan White.
Okay, yeah.
I mentored him for 6 years. He came to me, said, can you help me? How did you become a coach? I monitor you. I admire you. How do you become you? I said, well, only me can be me, but I can help you and tell you all the mistakes that I made so you don't make them. And 6 years later from that conversation, he's now been appointed as Dylan White's head coach. So I take pleasure in that.
Yeah. And as you say, you go back to, someone giving you the opportunity, you've now passed that on to someone else.
You have to pass it on, yeah.
No,
you have to pass it on.
As I say, it's, hats off to you, and the stuff you're doing down at the gym, Don, is amazing, and I wish you all the success heading forwards. And there's some great times ahead. Boxing's, as we say, we were talking earlier with the roadmap and stuff like that, moving forward with old Uncle Boris. We're on the way out, looking towards the future now, and it's looking good again. So I hope things really work out for you.
Thank you, and for myself, for generally the sport in a whole. Fighters who haven't fought for the past 18 months, the small hall shows, haven't operate. So can you imagine those poor guys? They've all got families to feed. So obviously they've all gone and got another job because you can't stay idle. And my only fear and concern is that when boxing is reintroduced, a lot of these people probably would have retired and they would have gotten used to working, putting food on the table for the families. So the pandemic, not only have we lost lives, we've also lost professions, people who would have had to jack in the boxing because they've been dormant for too long.
Yeah.
There's casualties in many areas. So I pray to God that this thing subsides and then people can, the small horse shows can start operating again, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, people only look at, you know, the superstars, don't they? And there's not the people that are fighting, you know, every weekend or, you know, however long to put food on the table. And it's, you know, it's those guys that are, as you say, the grassroots of the sport. So
yeah, absolutely.
Let's
yeah.
You know, let's pray that, you know, things can pick up and, you know, those people can get back out there and do what they can.
Yeah.
But no,
we pray. We hope.
As I say, you know, it's an absolute honour to have you on. Yeah.
Listen, thank you for inviting me on your show, and feel free in the future to although I've made it my point not to give more. I'm honoured first and foremost to be invited, but I've given quite a lot of interviews, and okay, the way you've asked me the questions, I've been able to answer it in the fashion you've asked me. So it's not, because I've been asked this many times.
Yeah.
It depends on the person asking. The way you put it to me determines how I answer it. So you've used your personality to draw it out in the same question. I've answered it in the way you've asked me. So again, for somebody who's heard me say it before, some of the answers about myself, the way you tactfully ask. So you've got what I'm trying to get at. You're good at what you do, my friend. Keep it up, and any help I can give in the future, I will. You're a good man.
Well, I really appreciate that, Don. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
God bless, and I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, everyone. Good luck for the future.
Thank you.
You take care.
God bless. Take care, my man.
Yeah, and you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was Don Charles on JG's Fight Talk, and yeah, what a privilege. I'll see you guys soon, and yeah, thank you very much.